I've been paid a lot of paychecks, but the only money I ever made was in land.
It's time for the Land Show with accredited land consultant Jonathan Good.
Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Land Show. I'm your friend Jonathan Good, and I'm coming to you from the studio here in my office at the Farm and Forest Brokers headquarters in Centerville, Alabama. Right now we're going to go down to Pike County, Alabama. We've got a first-time guest to the show, Mr. Ron Foster. He is an author of 76 books and focuses, he's called the Southern Prepper. This is his first time with us. Mr. Foster, welcome to the Land Show.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank
Yes,
you for
sir.
having me.
Well, my show producer Skipper made the introduction between us and said that you would be a good guest for the show. And the just first thing to say, the author of 76 books, Mr. Foster, that's a lot.
Yes, sir. It's been quite a long haul doing all those. Well received, and I'm blessed that way.
Well, yes, sir. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in Alabama? How did you get interested in this type of genre?
I grew up in Alabama. I also responded when I was in the National Guard to many of the hurricanes on the Gulf Coast. I put my fishing and hunting and et cetera in there from Alabama in the books, but I also used my emergency management background to show how people act in disasters, et cetera. Just generally speaking, I saw the need for preparedness and incorporated it into my lifestyle. Yeah, I do a lot with the prepper community, quote, quote, prepper people that prepare for disasters.
Okay. So do you do you practice this at home, homesteading and those sorts of things, try to grow a lot of your own food, or what? I guess the word prepper means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but what sorts of things does that incorporate for you?
I live the lifestyle. I have a garden, grow the garden, explore various forms of alternate energy, put back food. Word prepper, actually, like our grandparents were preppers. They always had a little pantry and did canning, et cetera. So it's nothing new. They just decided they'd put a label on it. And
that's right.
Then they got.
Yeah, I remember my grandmother. She came through the Great Depression, and every year you grew a garden and you canned some stuff, and you saved every bread tie that you had from every bag of bread, and everything was just. It was just being wise with the resources you had, because you didn't know when they might go away. And so, I think a lot of folks share that sentimentality there.
Oh, exactly. We get power outages, our occasional hurricanes, tornadoes, et cetera. But, just job loss, things of this nature, just to have something put back,
sure,
for the hard times.
Yeah. Well, earlier in the week, we had that big windstorm come through and knocked the power out to the area where I live. And I'm a half a mile one way to my closest neighbor and 3.5 miles the next way to my closest neighbor. And so when the power goes out, I'm the last one on the line. And so we kind of have to be a little self-sufficient out where we are as well.
Oh, yes. You got to take care of your creature comforts and eat, have what you need, have form light. These things that people take for granted until the switch gets clicked.
Absolutely. So what are some of the themes, if you've written this many books, and tell me kind of the philosophy, because I know you want to entertain, but it sounds like you also want to inform people when they read your books. You want it to be a helpful resource for them.
Yes, also make them aware of disasters they might not have thought of. My first book, Prepper's Road March, had a FEMA manager going to Atlanta for a job interview. And what happened during that book, they had what they call a Carrington event, went off in 1860. The solar storm hit. And back then we didn't have any technology. All we had was, the telegraphs, things of that nature.
Right.
And, people, when those went off, some of those telegraph operators got shocked. Some of the buildings caught on fire, et cetera. Now, if we have one today, all those computers in your cars and everything else, they go.
Right.
So stranded my manager up there, and he had to make it home back to Montgomery with nothing. He met some crazy Southern characters along the way, and used some survival tips and tricks to do this. And he was commenting like, all these women's shoes out here on the highway. Have sensible shoes, ladies, in the car. You know, you can't walk home in a pair of high heels or something. So it's just
Right.
when you read a story and you learn it that way, it's easier reading an old dry survival book. You kind of put yourself in the situation, think about how you're going to do, and mentally prepare for that type of disaster.
Absolutely. Well,
Uh,
it's not that far fetched because just 4 or 5 years ago, we had the big unexpected ice storm in Birmingham, and so many folks had to walk home. They were stranded on the side of the road, and you would not have wanted to be out in high heels or, or open-toed shoes on that kind of day for sure.
oh, yes. And NASA says we have a 12% chance of a solar storm. And so preparing for things like it, for example, backing out of your driveway, if you had a 12% chance getting in a wreck and your insurance took that into account and you bought insurance for that, you're actually prepping. And when something odd like that happens, and we watch the solar storms here all the time, events, it can affect your heart, it can affect people's moods, etc. Just getting an awareness, like California's other big one is something called an arc storm. It's spelled capital A, capital R, small K, capital S storm. That's atmospheric river times 1,000. That it rained for 40 days, 40 nights in California. The governor had to go to get inaugurated in a rowboat. People don't realize that the whole valley in Las Vegas, that area, Los Angeles, it'll go underwater. I've got a book on that about, people trying to escape out of that thing, and they didn't have any clue how to do that, and there's no plan for it.
Yeah.
So I'll bring awareness. And then in that book, I put in what I call the Katrina lifeboat, which people in Louisiana know what to do in a flood.
Right.
And they usually get up to the higher floor, but a lot of people did that during Katrina, but they weren't thinking that you're supposed to have an axe up there in case the water rises. But we
Right.
found a whole bunch of bodies up in the attics. They forgot the axe to get out. But Katrina lifeboat is just basically taking a mattress, you seal it with paint, oil, whatever you got. Now you got your lifeboat.
Okay.
So,
Something that'll float.
oh yeah.
I gotcha. So it sounds like, I mean, you cover a lot of different topics. Where do you get your inspiration for these kinds of things?
Well, I had some military survival schools, and then of course, the tips and tricks you pick up growing up on hunting, things like that. Watching disasters. I've got background in emergency management. I'm big in the prepper community. Media says there's over 4 million. That's the ones that admit they're preppers, or not label themselves survival, whatever. We talk a lot. I do camp outs. If I say come meet the author or something like that, we did one down there at Jackson Island outside of Millbrook. That's where they had the movie Big Fish, and they left the movie set out there.
Right.
I said, I got all these empty houses. So what do we do with that? So I pretended that we got cut off from the mainland and we started living on the island type thing.
Okay. Interesting. When was that?
That was about 2 years ago. Then I invited a bunch of other apocalyptic authors down there do similar genre. They came and I said, all right, here, we got this movie set. Y'all imagine what's going on, but I don't know if you've been there. They got all those goats running around and whatnot. So
I haven't. I've heard about it. I've never been over there. So, like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different thoughts and terms associated with being a prepper. Some people say it's done out of fear. Some say that, you just want to be ready. Where does this come from? What's the place where this comes from you? Are you just wanting to be ready, or are there a lot of things that you feel like we need to be nervous about, or what's your thought?
I observe what's going on, and having lived, like I said, down here, hurricane prone coast, I know what goes on after disaster. I tried to dispel a lot of myths. People think everybody turns into mutant zombies or something, and
Right.
attack each other after this. And I said, no, people are at their best, right after disaster. They help each other and whatnot. Actually, boots on the ground doing that. So, but a lot of preppers out there, so-called preppers, they'll say, no, you need guns and ammo and all this and that. And they're stocking more of that than they are foods. But so I try to get them centered on this and say, this didn't really happen. And it's like during Katrina, when they were talking about, everybody in the stadium, that was media spin. And that media apologized for about a week later. You got like 5 minutes blurb that, oh yeah, we kind of lied a little bit. We're, hyping it up for ratings, but they didn't tell the true story and put excess fear on people.
Right.
If you got a little food put back and this and that, you're not going to panic, you know. And the more you got, you can help your neighbors out. Yeah, it's all about helping each other. You've been through this, you know. Everybody gets out and they start clearing out tree limbs and whatnot off the lawn. You know,
Right.
so out the streets got the chainsaw. You try to build communities. If you can build community before disaster, that really takes the brunt off of it.
Yeah. I was living in Pensacola during Hurricane Ivan and Katrina, and it was amazing. Those were really the first hurricanes that I experienced, firsthand that close to the coast. And folks from churches and other agencies got out and started helping folks, and neighbor helping neighbor, cutting trees off and dragging things and trying to, help people find things that might have gotten blown away or washed away in the storm. And anyway, it really does. You're right. In a lot of instances, it brings out the very best in neighbors and trying to help the folks. And when your freezer goes out and you have a huge barbecue on the block where everybody's bringing whatever's in the freezer and they're grilling out and doing the best you can, it really does bring out the best in a lot of people.
Oh yeah, some great barbecues. I was down there at Hurricane Frederick, Mobile. I guess I was in the National Guard then. I started learning where the best places to eat when we respond.
Right.
You know, and so I go hang out at the cop shop because their wives and their families and whatnot were cooking over there, and that was where the best food was at versus going over to the Salvation Army area. You know.
Yeah.
And the side of the Miller Brewing Company, where they're storing all the beer, blew off down there, so I had free beer over there too. So
well, that's that's a win for a lot of folks for sure. Well, Mr. Foster, so you've written these books. How long have you've written 76 books? What's the time span? How long is it taking you to amass this catalog?
about 17 years.
Okay.
And
So you've been doing it for a while. It must be a passion of yours to keep doing it like that.
well, when I was studying emergency management, working on my master's and all that, one question that the instructors always ask is why, when we spend millions of dollars, do people not prepare? They don't make a 72-hour kit or things of this nature, or the
Right.
hurricane coast. Nobody prepares. And what would you do about it? I'm teaching people in my books. It's my way of getting people to learn to prepare, think ahead, and this genre picks up. I don't know if you remember classic book Gary Paulson wrote, The Hatchet.
I'm not familiar with
But
that. Yeah.
it's on the reading list these days. I've been kind of compared to him by a few interviewers out there that reviewed my books, where he got an axe from his mom, and then the plane went down in Alaska, and he was learning tips and tricks in there. You learn from the book. That's
Okay.
one thing. There's movies made about, the guy that read all the survival books and whatnot. He applied it, in some situation and whatnot.
Right.
So I give you entertainment and I give you skills.
Okay.
So that's what works. And it's a lot easier to get that. I've got a lot of people quote prepping, or they'll say, hey Ron, how do you get somebody that's a non-prepper to prep? And I say, hey, give them this book.
Right.
And it's like the book 1 Second After that. Trying to remember the gentleman's name. Anyway, once people see the need and start picturing themselves in the disaster, then they start getting serious about doing something for themselves. So
Right.
that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. Well, you've got I would call it preparation parables then, where you're telling the story but encouraging the people to pick up on the message there. So, well, that's fascinating. And I guess, I mean, I did a quick Google. Your books are easy to find. Where can people find your books for sale?
Well, I'm on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere that books are sold out on the web. I'm on a number of platforms. Just recently, now start being in the airports, which I just signed a contract on that. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. You have a website?
Yes, prepper-fiction.com.
Prepper-fiction.com. Well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to be with us today. A lot of folks that listen, that this whatever degree of prepper they are, just being prepared for whatever the next thing is. And if that means having a pantry full of food the next time the power goes out, whatever it is, wherever they are, sounds like they might be able to pick up something from your book. So, Mr. Foster, give us that website one more time where people can find your information.
Prepper-fiction.com.
That's right. Well, this has been Mr. Ron Foster, Southern Prepper, author of 76 books. Mr. Foster, thank you so much for making time to be with us on the Land Show today.
Thank you, sir.
And we got a little bit more show to go. Stick around. Brian Jones is up next when the Land Show continues.